by the Citizens for Nonpartisan Civic Engagement, Mesilla Valley Transit, Southwest. This program has been made possible by the Citizens for Nonpartisan Civic Engagement, Mesilla Valley Transit, Southwest Organizing Project, and the Las Cruces Channel Media Network, streaming live on Facebook, Twitter, and YouTube.
Hello, my name is Arturo Uribe. I'm here with the Citizens for Nonpartisan Civic Engagement with the 2020 New Mexico Election Candidates Forum. We are here gathered today with some friends of mine, commentators from the community that are coming together to talk about the election and who in the next few weeks will be helping us engage with the candidates. Due to the pandemic, it's been a very difficult time for voters to engage with the candidates. And so we've had to think out of the box. Historically, we've been doing them in our communities where we were inviting them and asking them questions. But because of the COVID, we've had to change it up and be more creative. So we've invited some friends of ours to come together. We're doing our best. We are following the governor's orders, practicing social distancing, using masks, hand sanitizer, and we're respecting that order. So when the candidates come in, and all of us here are with masks, hand sanitizer. So due to that, this is where we're at. Live here on Facebook, Twitter, and YouTube. You can stream in if you put in the search box the Las Cruces channel, and I encourage you to do that. In the next couple of weeks, you'll be able to ask questions through the live feed, but today we're going to go ahead and introduce some of the candidates. I just want to give a little brief summary of who I am and the work that I've done. I'm a member of Southwest Organizing Project and the Mesquite Community Action Committee. We've been doing these forums in our community and other work, and we understand how important it is to be engaged with the candidates. It is us that puts them in the position and the power that they have. And sometimes I feel like they forget about us after the election. We need to understand that it's our vote that hires them, and it's us that need to be engaged. So that's what we intend to do in the next few weeks with the commentators and with you out there, the viewing public, to stream live and ask questions on Facebook Live. You won't be able to do it on YouTube or Twitter, but on Facebook Live, on the Las Cruces Channel Facebook page, you can do that. And I encourage you, your family, and your friends to do so. With that, I'd like to just go ahead and start introducing our commentators. One of the things that I've learned throughout this process is that we all come from diverse backgrounds. And what I've seen in the last few years is that we're not coming together, even though we may disagree or agree. And sometimes I think it's better that people who don't always agree come together to have discussions, respect one another, and ask questions of each other. We're not trying to convince each other to think one way or another, but I think it's important and that we forgot to do that with each other. And I look forward to working with the friends, my commentators, and others in the community to do that. And that's what we're trying to do today and for the next few weeks, and I hope from here on out. But in the last few years, we've been very divisive with one another, and our opinions have led us to sometimes, unfriend people on Facebook. I don't think we should be doing that unless you feel strongly about it, but I think it is important to engage with other folks that have different ideas. So the folks that I've invited to participate with us are people that are from different backgrounds. With that, I'd like to go ahead and just introduce a few of our commentators, and I'll go ahead and start with Mr. Kelly O'Connell.
Thank you. I am Kelly O'Connell, and I did radio in town, AM Las Cruces, from 2011 to 2017, and we were going to call this the shootout at the COVID Corral. So basically, we're trying to, and Arturo is the one who masterminded this, but bring people together, but also expose the candidates and get it from a different angle. So my background, I'm an attorney, working attorney down on Water Street, undergrad at University of Oregon in philosophy, and then I picked up JD and an MPP, Master of Public Policy. I've been a columnist at Canada Free Press, which is in Toronto, and I'm still writing there. My latest column is Fire on the Mountain, and you can guess what that's about. And hobbies, traveling, cooking. I play piano. I played piano at Encanto for a year, and down in the little bar there. And I was a researcher at St. Thomas in Miami. And so anyway, I'm real pleased to be invited here. And I'm doing a daily vlog, Kelly O'Connell Show, KO Knockout Radio. Thank you very much, Arturo.
Kelly, I know that you worked with, you were on the radio. Yeah. What happened that you're no longer on the radio?
Well, it's kind of interesting. A gentleman invested in it. He was a guy that worked there, Mike Smith, and he thought there was going to be a lot of investment in Spanish radio, and so he took the local talk radio, he switched that over to that. And, it's a business decision, but I think there was a lot of people that were disappointed. You have national talk radio, but then you have local talk radio too, and it was a place, and I know that you used to call in, Arturo, and I enjoyed your calls, but there's a number of people that I got used to calling into a couple of times a week and hearing opinions, and I always learn new stuff. And I think we need that back in town. We need local talk radio. Nothing is more important than the spoken word. They say in the beginning, everything was created through the word. So we got to stick to it.
I thought it was actually a really great program. I think it was a service to the community, and I really do miss that. I think you're absolutely correct that we do need to look for different venues where we can reach out to the community here locally.
Yes, thank you. Thanks for the invite.
I'd like to go ahead and introduce Olga. Go ahead and tell us a little bit about yourself.
Thank you very much, Arturo. I'm Olga Nunez. I'm a longtime resident of Sunland Park. Currently, I'm serving my second term as city council for the city of Sunland Park. I've been a longtime activist for my community. I started at a small community center working with youth for them to know their rights, to engage in work experience. We did all sorts of cleanups. We did all sorts of parades. We did some marches. We organized and we worked against ASARCO. We finally got it shut down. That was very, very hard work, and it's a very big win for my community. I come from a very small community that has a long history of cancer. So that, just beating ASARCO, getting them to shut down, that was a huge victory. After that, we fought Camino Real landfill because it was also impacting another area of our community. We lost that. We also lost the fight against El Paso Electric expanding. They were granted their permit. We lost the fight against CEMEX, but I believe that the youth learned a lot in regards to organizing, in regards to standing up for themselves. I also, once I finished doing that work, I started getting involved with the city politics, learning about who was running our city, what the needs of the residents were, how our money gets spent. And after going through the whole circus in 2012, a friend of mine, convinced me to run. And this in itself is a learning experience for me. I've always focused more on my community, but these last 4 years traveling to Santa Fe, seeing how how things are done, it's my interest has grown in regards to, politics. Right now, we have a huge problem in regards to our voting polls. The city of Sunland Park is in danger of losing our polls if we don't get those poll workers going. And I believe that it's very important to do things like this so that people engage and they participate in electing their leaders. We, as a city council, we hear a lot of complaints, but the power is in the people. And I believe shows like this or this opportunity gives us the chance to let people know that they need to be involved, they need to engage, and they need to vote, participate, and do it in an educated way. I'm very grateful to be invited. I'm looking forward to learning from everybody, and thank you very much.
Olga, when I think of Sunland Park, I mean, it's had so much controversy, and you've been part of that, and then before and after. How do you feel the situation and climate is now in Sunland Park?
I believe that we've grown to working together. I believe our Mayor Perez says that he has the best council he's had in the time he's served. We're leaning to working together. Having more, more interaction. For example, one thing that's brought Daisy, Lita, and myself closer is the food pantries. People need food. People need resources like sanitizer. All sorts of things, and just working together and getting those resources to the community that's brought us together, that's gotten us to know each other, to relate. We have different points of view, but we are able to work together. I believe that there's more work to be done. For example, as city councilors, we're not held accountable. We get paid regardless of whether or not we're doing our job. And I'm looking forward to moving towards, holding ourselves accountable, serving the best way that we're able to.
Thank you. I'd like to go ahead and introduce our champ.
Austin Trout, former and future world champion.
Yeah.
2011, I was a world champion. I defended it successfully against the great Miguel Cotto in the Madison Square Garden. Was the first person to beat him there. A lot of great accolades that I could talk about boxing, but this pandemic has really shown me that my job is really not that important as if you look in the scheme of life. And what I do is just entertainment. It doesn't really affect how anybody lives or serves. And so when I started getting the bug, and I'm not into politics at all, but because I haven't been to politics, there's a lot of things I didn't know about the power that I possess as a voting citizen. And once I learned about a few things that I feel should be common knowledge but really isn't, I felt like it's really my job to use my platform to not just learn about the power that we have as a people, but to educate the masses. So that way we as the people can take our power back. And like the councilwoman said, a lot of the politicians are not held accountable, but that's mostly because we don't listen to them or know their names or even vote for them. So what they do or don't do, we're not paying attention, and we don't hold them by the fire. So that's why I feel like I'm here, is to learn and to teach and to just bring the people together to take back their power. Right now, you get the lobbyists that have all the power, but that's because they're paying attention. Let's start to pay attention, and let's start really putting who we need to put in office to do what we need them to do.
Austin, I met you when I saw you speaking there at Brannigan Library when they were doing the Black Lives Matter movement, and heard you and others speak. And so I was really inspired by some of the words you said. So I reached out to you. And then you shared with us and shared with me the efforts that you were doing with Tommy Black there at the plaza. Can you share a little bit about what was going on there?
Well, and thanks to Arturo for reaching out. He did come, and we organized a little group together. We were able to put together a Voters Education Expo. We also put together a city town halls, what we called it, where the people came out and they just got to speak their dissatisfaction with some pieces of the government, basically. So then once we took all the complaints, so to speak, we said, okay, now if you want to change it, this is what you're upset about, this is what you're upset about, you're going to have to go vote. And these are the places that affect those areas and where you can vote. So, voting local is probably the biggest thing that we can do, and probably the least thing that people do. Most time they just want to go and vote for the big show instead of the show that really affects them. So I thank you for bringing us together and getting those things done for our community. But, that's just the start. I think what we're doing here is the next step from those town halls and voter education expos.
One of the biggest questions that came out of those forums was that we were expressing and sharing was the right for felons to vote again.
That's right.
You lose two rights when you become a felon. It's the right to carry a gun and the right to vote. So it's always I always thought about that. How powerful is our vote?
It's just as powerful as your right to defend your life. It's the livelihood. If you don't like how the education is going in this area, there's some people that are responsible for that, and we can change that. Just for an example. So I agree, and I never understood the power or how important voting was. I may have voted, but it wasn't an educated vote. It was more of I'll just pick a side, kind of like a multiple choice that you don't know the answers to. So now I encourage everybody, do your research, your due diligence.
Yes.
I mean, it's one thing to vote, but it's one thing to have an educated vote. It's to know what you're voting for, and that's one thing that I was not. That I wasn't doing, and thank you for opening my eyes. We want change, we can change it.
I'd like to go ahead and introduce Ms. Shirley.
Okay, thank you, Arturo, and thank you to the listening audience. My name is Shirley Baca. Over 50 years ago, I began my career as a community organizer. I worked for the Migrant Head Start program and eventually became the executive director for Community Action Agency of Southern New Mexico. I've been an artist, musician, educator, administrator, consultant, legal representative, and elected official. I have many, many hats. In addition to my own 26 campaigns, I have worked on approximately 100 campaigns. I've been a Democratic Party officer and have attended 4 Democratic National Conventions as a delegate, with the most recent one being a month ago as a virtual delegate to the DNC convention in Milwaukee, in Wisconsin. And that was really a lot of Zoom fun. Something new experience. In addition to having been a former state representative and public regulation commissioner, I was the Democratic nominee for New Mexico's 2nd Congressional District in 1996 and 1998. So I'd like to think that even though I didn't win against an 18 and 20-year incumbent, as the first Hispanic woman to achieve that position, perhaps I opened the door for our current Congresswoman, Xochitl Torres-Small. I currently have worked for the last 10 years as a legislative analyst for the New Mexico Senate majority, the majority being Democrats, and I've served for the President Pro Tem, Senator Mary Kay Papen, as well as several Senate committees. My love is public policy, and my passion is public service. So I approach legislative policy with what I believe is in the best interest of the public. And as the champ said, and as everybody has said, it's important for us to be educated, to know what's in the best interest of the public. And that's why I'm here this election season, is to ask the questions of the candidates, to listen, and to see what the candidates' ideas are to best serve the public. And I hope you, the audience, participate with us via social media, because we need everybody's participation and everybody's voice as we move forward. Recuerda que su voto es su voz. Your vote is your voice. We've got to vote. This is so important, this election cycle, probably the most important election cycle that we will have in our lifetime, certainly in mine. And as you've heard, I have a long lifetime of public service. And thank you, Arturo.
So Shirley, your experience being up in Santa Fe and your elected capacity and appointed How important is it for us as citizens to go up to Santa Fe and advocate or do citizen lobbying?
It's the total important activity that you can do. I think Austin said it a minute ago when he said, or maybe Kelly, that it was the lobbyists whose voice is heard. Well, in actuality, any voice is heard. If you appear in committee, if you appear to the analysts, if you appear to the elected official, they're going to listen to you. And it's really important because when those representatives and senators come back home and they see you in the grocery store, they know that you've met with them, that you've talked to them, and that you're going to hold them accountable. It's only us that can hold elected officials accountable, and it's so important that we make ourselves be heard via social media, emails, but if you can go in person, that's the best.
Thank you. I want to go ahead and introduce, but just share a little bit of my history with Mario. You know, Mario, I remember you working in the clerk's office and working with my tío Leo Rona and going out to get educated, informed, and become a voter registrar. But just, you know, my experience with you and the work that we were doing nonpartisan get out the vote efforts. I remember, you know, having to call you out because people were freaking out that we were showing up in limousines, and we would tell them, well, we're VIPs, and they would be like, well, what kind of you know, they see a bunch of Mexicanos and different people getting out of a limo, they're like, well, what are you doing here? What kind of VIP are you? We're voters in progress. But, you know, so my experience with you goes way back, and it's always been nonpartisan. You know, you work with the clerk's office. But go ahead and introduce us with the work you're doing now.
So again, my name is Mario Jimenez. As you mentioned, I formerly worked at the county clerk's office, although now I am working with Common Cause. I am the campaign director for Common Cause New Mexico. We're a nonpartisan grassroots organization that's dedicated to upholding American values, and we focus on good government. But touching back on what you mentioned, you know, despite my working in a political office, an elected office, it is one of the few elected office that does nonpartisan work. We're not involved in any kind of legislation, not involved in being swayed one way or another. The work of the county clerk's office is to do the work of the people, whether it be maintaining your documents or, as we're discussing tonight, making sure everybody is afforded the right to vote. So it's been a really good experience in engaging with the public in that nonpartisan capacity, and something that I've been doing for roughly 15 years now. As you mentioned, everything from voter registration drives, community information, community get out the vote, you name it, and it's been a very good experience. And sadly, as Austin touched on, we still have a lot of people that are extremely unengaged and uninformed and 100% uneducated. This is something where we all really got to start taking a look and start discussing bringing back civic engagement in our youth, in the schools. I myself, as Austin was discussing, was not inspired to get involved in elections and politics and voting until something hit me and touched my life, and that was the birth of my daughter. And it wasn't until I realized that if I wanted to see change for her and her future, I needed to get off my butt and I needed to vote. I mean, sadly, I didn't register to vote until I was 20 years old. If I'd have known more about civic engagement, if I'd have known what our city councilors, our public regulation commissioner, our governor, our water board, our school boards all did for our public and for our people, I would have engaged a lot sooner. One of the things that we did while I was in the county clerk's office that I'm very proud of, we passed legislation that now allows 16-year-olds to assist at the polls. So right now we have a shortage across the state. Thankfully, our county clerks have come up with different ways on how to fill poll worker vacancies. But if we have any 16 to 17-year-olds who are interested in working the polls, I encourage them to call their county clerk and get on their standby list. In the event somebody, for whatever reason, is unable to attend, they can plug you in as a last-minute individual, and you get paid for it. So it's a way that our youth can start getting engaged rather than waiting, like some of us here today, you know, for something to touch our lives before we start engaging with voters. Talking a little more about what we're doing right now with Common Cause, we're putting together the biggest election protection plan that we've been able to put together in the state of New Mexico. We're expanding our election protection from just focusing on election day to really trying to touch early voting as well as absentee. As everybody saw across the country, we saw a very big spike in the utilization of absentee ballots. Something that a lot of New Mexicans are completely unaware of. In New Mexico, you don't need a reason or a cause in order to vote absentee. You don't have to have a disability. You don't have to be homebound. All you got to be is a registered voter, apply for that absentee ballot, it'll come to your mailbox. And that's a very good way for us to stay home, vote, keep ourselves, keep our neighbors, keep our family safe. Just go to the Secretary of State's website, sos.state.nm, and you can request your absentee ballot right here, right now, as individuals are streaming live as we're talking to them. And, you know, along with our election protection program, we're still looking for volunteers. So we have any viewers or any individuals who queue this up and watch it in the near future, if they just go to protectthevote.net. That's protectthevote.net. Sign up as a volunteer. We're 100% nonpartisan. We're not committed to one party or one candidate, and help us look after all the other citizens that are casting their vote and ensure that every single vote that is cast is in fact qualified and counted properly. So yeah, that's just a little bit of the work that we're working on now. And you know, again, thank you for having myself and everybody here today. And you know, I hope the voters tune in, and those who are not voters get themselves registered to vote, and look for more information that, you know, yourself and myself and others here will be putting out for them to help them make an educated vote. So yes, thank you.
Right on. Well, thank you. You've answered a lot of good questions and hit on a lot of points. I didn't even have to follow up with a question. So thank you for that, Mario. I do want to just let the folks know that one of our other commentators is Marcy Dickerson. She works in our community. And I just wanted, she couldn't be here today because she's traveling to Santa Fe. And so I just wanted to just share with you some words that she gave to me. You know, Marcy Dickerson is a Las Cruces native. She's the owner of the Dickerson Group, which encompasses Dickerson's Catering, The Game, and The Game Extra Innings, Dickerson's Event Management, and Revolution 120, which is a 501c3. Marcy has received her MBA from NMSU in 2000 and is the proud mother of two sons, Saxon and Weston. The Dickerson Group has been an active supporter of many local charities. Marcy founded Revolution 120 as a different type of charity to meet many of the needs of the Las Cruces area that were not being met. Our goal is to change the way Las Cruces gives and to utilize 100% of those gifts to make a profound impact in the lives of the people we give to. We created the pay it forward aspect to ensure the charitable gifts would have a greater impact and to help create a culture of serving others in our community. Just this week, I know that they were in communities like La Mesa and down south and all over, giving food boxes. I know that my family and friends have taken advantage of that. I know that Marcy Dickerson is doing really good work in our community, and I'm very proud and honored to have her as one of our commentators. She really wanted to be here, but like I said, she already had an engagement that she had committed to, and so Marcy Dickerson will be joining us when we start interviewing and talking with our candidates. So, you know, this has been an interesting thing with the pandemic. All of us being engaged in community and trying to, you know, meet with the candidates and be able to find out more about them has been a challenge. So because of those challenges, I want to ask you guys, like, for the voters, what do you feel the candidates have done so far to go out and engage with them? I mean, what has been your experience through this primary election this year and right now during the general. How do you feel the candidates have done so far engaging with us, the citizens and voters in the community? And I'll go ahead and start with Olga.
Well, as far as Sunland Park is concerned, we have candidates helping us with transportation to get the food baskets to Sunland Park. We have they have given resources, money, and we pretty much have an open door. We have an open door for us. We are able to provide a food basket for families every single week, thanks to their participation and their engagement and the need that Sunland Park has. One of our biggest obstacles is the lack of transportation. So for us to be able to get the food to the families, for having the candidates, help us in doing the door-to-door, that was huge for us. They also had a campaign where they delivered masks and antibacterials and other resources to the community. So for us, that's big.
And that was the candidates themselves?
Yes. I'm not sure if I'm able to mention the names, but we had to.
Okay. And do you think that's a good way for? Has it been working to engage with the community and the voters in Sunland Park?
Well, it has been working as far as the community goes. It's not much of a, I guess, campaign strategy for them because of the organizations being nonprofit. They can't really do any campaigning. But the fact that they're willing to do it anyways, that speaks for itself.
Okay. Kelly, what's been your experience?
Well, this is brief, but I think that people have locally and also nationally been affected by COVID. And so I think COVID has acted as an excuse for some people. It's obviously hampered people going out and doing the normal things that you would do, meet and greet, kissing babies and stuff like that. Everything's been changed. But I'd also like to challenge people to consider whether the candidate that you're interested in might be using COVID as an excuse to avoid any opportunity to get involved in a way that would communicate what they stand for and what's at stake. And I think that's what's important about this, even more than ever. What's at stake is huge. Someone said it's the election of a lifetime. But ask yourself, if people are trying to not take any risks whatsoever and just kind of breeze in, maybe because they've already been elected before. So I think we really got to push these candidates.
I mean, when you say that, I have to agree with you. Has any candidate reached out to you?
No.
Okay.
I mean, Ben Rawson is a friend of mine, but he's not in office now.
And that's what I find sad, is that I do feel the same way you do, is that I do think that they could be trying harder. But like with everything, as citizens and community members, it always seems like it's left up to the community to do the work. Mm-hmm. And here we are, trying to do something to engage with them. And for the most part, most of the candidates have been welcoming. But some of these candidates, I just think they forget who hires them.
Mm-hmm. Where their power comes from. And our theory of government is popular sovereignty and was worked over many centuries. And the idea is that the people inherently own the authority that is then borrowed by politicians who make it into office. But how often do we see that? How often do we have servant leaders in office? And sometimes it's terrible. You can't even get a hold of your representative, and you see how high and mighty people get. And it's temporary. All power is temporary.
Mm-hmm. Wow.
Yes. I like the word you use there, servant leaders. I mean, I think that's really important. And then we are the ones that hire them. We may not be able to have an impact on, the country, but I do believe we have an impact on the county.
I have one more question because I like where you're going with this. The question is, we're in the middle of unprecedented change because we're in the middle of unprecedented crisis, right? We have one crisis after another. You got COVID. You got Black Lives Matter. Now you have these big, unprecedented hurricanes coming in. And then you've got fires. So what are we doing to evolve? That's what I would ask. are you going to choose somebody to help us evolve in a positive way?
All right, with that, we're going to go to a break, and we'll be back in a few moments. Thank you very much.
That was good?
Yeah. Whew.
When I think of MVT, I can't help but think of the finest trucking company in the U.S. They provide a driver experience like no other. From regional routes to great pay, they make it a priority to make sure you feel right at home. As a truck driver, there are several companies to choose from, but I decided to drive with MVT, where they have state-of-the-art equipment and the best trucks in the industry, so you arrive at your destination safely and in style. I truly love what I do. After all, I'm proud to be with MVT.
Join the Mesilla Valley Transportation family.
Okay.
2 minutes.
So we're back, and I want to go ahead and follow through with with Kelly, what you're saying. And I know that Shirley, I saw that you were interested.
You saw my hand come
I saw
up?
your hand go up.
Yeah.
Go ahead.
Well, I think something that Kelly said that I am finding interesting, whereas before we were going door to door, that's something I love doing because that's where you really get to talk to the voter. You get to hear what's important to them, what they want to see, what are issues, and really voters vote on what the issues are that are pertinent to them. Austin said that when he started with his introduction. And I'm not seeing it. I'm seeing a few signs popping up. I'm seeing, I'm getting emails, electronic communication from people that are wanting me to maybe make phone calls for them or to give them money. But where you see some activity going on, and I think Kelly said it, is if they're in a district that they don't presume to be safe for their political party. Maybe they're going up against an incumbent. Maybe they're in a district that isn't all Democrat or all Republican or whatever, and they feel like they need to do more. And then Saturday, I was in Mesilla, and when I came back to my car, there was a card on my window on a particular candidate who was inviting the public to go to an ice cream social. And there was the question, is that safe? Do you want to go to an ice cream social? Are you going to be wearing your mask? Are you going to be socially distancing? We can't have those activities or forums anymore that we used to have. And then you get into that political partisan argument that really should not be partisan. It should be about health and safety and doing the right thing. But I think a lot of what Kelly said is right. If you think you're just automatically going to be reelected or your district is in your partisan favor, then you're not going to work so hard. And that's a shame. That's why we're here in this forum, so that the audience, you can ask the question. So starting next week, you can see the candidates and you can listen to what they have to say and how they answer those questions regarding the district and regarding your issues and your interests and your concerns.
And I think it's important that you say that because it has, the pandemic has truly changed what we're doing. And we are wearing masks and we are sanitizing our environment. So when the candidates come, you can see the partitions between you guys. So I mean, we're doing what we can so that we can come together. And you know, we've been very fortunate to have pretty much most of the folks that we've invited, the candidates that are coming, they're coming, you know. And so that's really exciting. But we're doing our part because you know, that's what we have to do. It's just different. And so I know some folks are trying to bring us together. But the governor's orders say we can't gather. So we are doing what the governor is asking, and we are practicing the PPE and respecting that. With that, Mario, I know that you wanted to say something there.
Yeah, I wanted to jump first off on something that Kelly was mentioning earlier in regards to our elected officials. And, you know, we always hear the term politicians. And if you hear the term politician, a lot of people associate that as a negative. And it is a negative because, I mean, I myself, when I had, was fortunate enough to serve the public in the county clerk's office, I didn't look at it as politicians. And what a lot of them forget is they're public servants. They're there to serve us. And that's something that we as the public, the voting public, and even those who are not registered to vote need to remember that they're there to serve us as the public. But to answer your original question in regards to how have I interacted with candidates and how they come to me, it's been through various ways. I have had a few candidates who have braved the streets per se, and come to my door with a mask on and gave a little knock, had a little talk, socially distanced though, left some materials and went about their way on down to the next house. I participated in several Zoom meetings, several Zoom conferences, and one of the big things has been social media. We have a lot of candidates that are utilizing social media, but one thing that none of us have discussed here yet is what about the people who do not have the ability to have social media, to join a Zoom conference? These are, again, the uneducated public who do not and continue to not inform themselves, because it's not because they don't want to inform themselves, because it's, as I believe Kelly was mentioned earlier, you have a lot of candidates who are just saying, I'm not even going to bother. I'm safe. Or they look at the map, they look at the numbers, and they say, all my numbers come from the city of Las Cruces. This is where people vote. I'm not going to worry about, the colonias where the turnout is low. This is where we need to reach out to those individuals in those colonias. This is where, broadcasts like this are very important. We can put them in the libraries, we can put them in the hands of our friends that have access to them and have them watch these so that they can educate themselves on the individuals who are running for office and show them, you know what, you may be getting a lot of votes out of Las Cruces, but the colonias can change that in one election.
And I really appreciate what you said, because I've done a lot of work in those barrios and those rural communities, those gems, those along the Camino Real, Don Juan de Onate Trail. Our second office was Chopes, so we had many meetings like this over there. But Wi-Fi, how important is Wi-Fi for our students who are at home doing distance learning? That's just one of the issues. I really look forward to seeing what some of these candidates say. But Austin, Champ, how do you feel as being engaged with candidates? Have they reached out to you? What's been your experience?
Well, just a few. Like I said before, we've had the voter expo, and we also had the town hall meeting, and we were able to get a few candidates come out, and they weren't invited. They took it as an opportunity to come and engage with the people, and I wish I could shout them out because that's what we did it for, but it's nonpartisan. So. But still, it wasn't enough, in my opinion, especially when there's not that many opportunities to come and see the people. I feel like every candidate whose job was on the line should have been there. It should have been at every opportunity to engage with the people. Personally, I've been trying to get into the city council meeting for probably about a month now. I've called every week and have gotten shut down, couldn't get a call back. It was getting the runaround. And I'm sitting there getting the runaround and just thinking like as if these people's jobs weren't on the line. So I feel like the engagement, the COVID, it was being used as an excuse to not go above and beyond, to not get creative, to be able to engage with the people that are going to hire you. So I'm getting the sense of safety and comfort from some of the candidates, because I don't think they've gone out to try to impress me for their vote, and so to speak. And not me, I'm just saying the people.
Yeah. I mean, quite frankly, honestly, my experience doing this work and reaching out and working in communities, the candidates already have, the elected officials just do this when it's time to vote.
That's right.
And I am really looking, like what you said, a servant, citizen servant leader that will stay engaged with us, that will call their own meetings, that will do house visits, that will reach out and return phone calls. I mean, it's it's sad that that's where we've come to, but we can change that. I honestly think we as the voters can change that, and we've seen the change. I mean, we've had some pretty incredible races during the primary, but it's up to us. And like you're saying, Mario, they pay attention to where the voters are, but they're not engaging with the voters that still are in their district, whether it's, you know, for whatever reason. But I think it's up to us and the voters and the folks, the citizen voters out there to stay engaged. And I hope that we can do that, and that's what we're trying to do. With that, you know, we're getting ready to close it up, and I just want to give you guys a couple minutes just to, you know, what do you guys hoped? And I think I've heard it, but what is it? Why are you here? Why are you here? Olga?
I believe, going on what Kelly says, it comes down to character. That's all there is. There's no servant leaders because we choose politicians over leaders. That's what it comes down to, bottom line. We're not creating any leaders. When you go to Santa Fe, it's the same people all the time. And it's up to the resident, to the average citizen, to become empowered. And I take offense with the word uneducated because Sunland Park has a huge base of seniors, very smart, you know, individuals, but it comes down to access. The internet is not, for them, it's not, you know, a necessity. It's a luxury. Pero how do we engage those seniors? Sunland Park for the longest time was the place to go for politicians. If you wanted to win an election, you would go to Sunland Park. We've lost that. And sadly, because we're not creating any leaders. We're regurgitating politicians. It comes down to informing the individual. You know, how do we engage the senior citizen right now? Because they're at risk, they're vulnerable. And they don't have the ability to, you know, most of them do not get on Facebook, YouTube. So how do we access them? And Kelly said that who are the politicians that are using COVID as an excuse? Elected officials are using it as an excuse. The first when everything closed down, it was the busiest time for me and another candidate, another elected official. We were working day and night. And while everybody else was invisible, they were afraid. We were afraid, but we made a decision. We did not run knowing that this was going to happen, but we ran. So we have to, you know, walk the walk. But we're not holding individuals accountable. Sunland Park does not have a recall. So how do we how do we make things happen? By, you know, engaging in forums. You know, people need to understand that the power is on them.
Kelly, I mean.
Well, I heard one statistic that really took my breath away, and it was that 60% of businesses that close are never going to reopen. And I thought, I mean, you think about that. Think about the numbers nationally. Think about the people who no longer have a job to go to that now have to go find a job with somebody else, the government or whatever. And I thought that's tragic. So my question. Last question I'll ask, and especially locally, what can we do to support business? Because there were so many people in town who had little businesses, and they're just making it. And it was beautiful, and you might need something that just they have. And I mean, what can the politicians, or, you know, I guess Olga is saying we have a tendency to look down on them because they don't serve us, but what can the politicians, what can the political system do to build back businesses? What can we do? You know, what can we expect our leaders to do?
Yeah. And that's something I hope that we, you know, can maybe accomplish doing these shows in the future. Shirley.
Well, one of the things that I've always seen as a servant leader or as a public servant is that it's always about the issue. And people will get involved when it's about an issue that impacts them, their community, their family. That's what happened to the champ here. This is why Austin got involved too, and why several other people have gotten involved. Something that I've heard over and over again from several people, and Olga just touched on it, and she talked about access to the internet, access to Wi-Fi, access to electronic media, etc. Well, where is your public regulation commissioner? When I was in the public regulation, I dealt heavily with telecommunications, and we brought a lot of Wi-Fi and broadband to areas that had not been covered. But where is the commissioner now, and what are you doing to bring that commissioner in? Now we have a down ballot vote on a constitutional amendment for people to decide whether they want the governor to make that appointment. That's going to be a discussion for another time. But I say, no, we don't need to do that. We need to hold people accountable for our needs. You made a very good point, Kelly, about business needs. Marcy will be here in one of our other shows. Marcy has been a community activist, has done a lot to protect not only her businesses, but her employees and other businesses. And I can tell you, you're right, we're going to lose about 60-some% of businesses in our country. But new ones are coming, because the reality is we as people are very creative. We're creative, we're creating new things to do. Young people are going to be using technology and teaching old geezers like me technology, things I never knew and that I'm learning and I hope to use. We're creative, we're going to create new ones, but we need to depend on each other, and the issues have to drive the policy that we're going to have and the elected officials that are going to work with us. But we have to lead, and we have to tell them what we need.
Mario?
Yeah. Well, to touch back on your question, you know, why am I here, and what made me choose to come on the show originally, and one of the big things is you and I discussed when you reached out to me, it's to give our voters and give our residents a different perspective. A lot of times you go to candidate forums, you know, and it turns into a debate, a back and a forth of, you know, well, you didn't do something right, well, let me talk about something that I saw in the news about you. And, you know, that's not what we're here to discuss. We're here to discuss the issues. We're here to discuss what the candidates can do for us, not their personal background, not something they did back when they were in grade school. And I think that's something that really attracted me to coming on to this show. And the fact that, again, it is nonpartisan. I mean, we have a wide variety of commentators here. Many of us have different political views. But one thing that we all do agree on is the issues. And the public needs to be educated on the issues. And another reason that I personally decided to come on the show is to help educate the viewers, help educate anybody who tunes in with us, help inform the voters. As I was mentioning earlier, we need to make sure people get registered to vote. We need to make sure they request their absentee ballot. You know, we may be locked in our homes right now, but you know, you can do it all from home. Those who have the access can go to the Secretary of State's website. Again, it's sos.state.nm.us. They can request their absentee ballot, and they can register to vote. And the last day to register to vote online from the safety of your own home is going to be the 6th of October. So, you know, I encourage everybody to talk to their friends, talk to their family, you know, and even yourselves. Get registered to vote. Make sure you request that absentee ballot and cast an informed vote.
Right on. Champ.
I'm here to learn, to educate, and to make this voting education a priority. In America, it's not really a priority to learn other languages. In most other countries, you're learning about 4 languages because that's a priority. They see the benefit. They see how much you can grow from doing that. Well, in America, and as free as we are, we don't have voting as much of a priority. And I would like to change that, because if you understand the power that you have, and if you can get the people to see that power that you have and join together, then you can change the course of this nation every time we do vote. I want it to be such a priority that they start teaching voting history in public schools, where they can sit there and show you all the stupid laws, bonds, and things that went through all because we didn't vote. And you'd be like, how could they ever let that go through? It's like, well, you didn't think it was a priority, so you didn't show up to vote. In my lifetime, so that's why I'm here. I think it's very important how, as free as we are, how come we're not teaching people the importance of registering to vote? And learning about an educated vote. You know, I know Diddy did the Vote or Die campaign a long time ago, but it's really vote to live, you know, and
go.
the best way you can live. So that's why I'm here, man.
But thank you guys, thank you all for coming here, and I'm really, you know, honored to just be part of this group with you. You know, we are the Citizens for Civic Nonpartisan Engagement. So next week we're going to have 2 races on Monday, 7 p.m. We'll be engaging with Senate District 37, in which we have Senator Bill Souls and Dave Gallis joining us. And then on Wednesday, the 23rd, we will have Senator Joseph Cervantes and the candidate that's John Thomas Roberts. So I look forward to having you guys engage with us. We'll have 2 of our commentators coming through next week. I just want to take this time to just thank you guys for tuning in. Thank you all for joining with us. And to thank our sponsors and the folks that helped bring this together, Mesilla Valley Transportation, Southwest Organizing Project, and the Las Cruces Channel Network. Get out and vote. Vote to live. Thank you.
By the Citizens for Nonpartisan Civic Engagement, Mesilla Valley Transit, Southwest Organizing Project, and the Las Cruces Channel Media Network. Streaming live on Facebook, Twitter, and YouTube.